Hello and welcome to another episode of the interview. I'm your host, Oreva Ifiafia, and I'm thrilled to have you with us today. We've got an important topic to dive into, one that has a significant impact on our youth. Today we'll be discussing drug abuse, its far-reaching effects, and most importantly, how we can work together to curb these growing issues. Joining us today is pharmacist Lawrence Uchenna Nwankwo. But before we proceed, let's go for a short break. Stay tuned for an insightful conversation.
Welcome to Social Spotlight, where we'll be diving into the sizzling world of social media like never before. It's a dynamic blend of trends, insights, and all things spicy in the social media world. Join us on this thrilling journey as we uncover the latest buzz, explore viral sensations, and give you some serious social media tips. Buckle up, because on Social Spotlight, we will be serving you hot trends and cool vibes that will keep you coming back for more. I'm Design, and I'm Green.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us. Welcome, sir.
Alright, thank you.
Okay, so today I want to ask, what are the primary reasons young people turn to drugs these days?
Thank you for that very important question. Drug abuse, it's a very major challenge in our society today, and there are different reasons why youths, who are the major category of people that engage in it, there are different reasons why they engage in this drug abuse, and these reasons encompasses issues like the tendency to want to relieve stress. We're in an economy of stress, so people tend to use drug as a means to relieve stress. Sometimes people do this because of peer pressure. Peer pressure is actually a major factor because these youths sometimes they do it not because they actually want to do it, but because they find themselves in the company of people who actually abuse these drugs. Then another reason why youths engage in it could be as a result of some mental challenges, which we call anxiety. It could be as a result of depression. So some youths use drug uncontrollably as a means to control their depressive states. And the other reasons could be social and environmental factors like poverty. And it can also be related to depression. When you are poor, the tendency of you being depressed is high. So the tendency of people using drugs uncontrollably to control these conditions becomes imminent. So I think these are some of and another reason is curiosity. Curiosity, because some persons abuse drugs not because they want to do it, they just want to try it out as a means of social experiment. They've heard that people use this drug to achieve a particular aim, so they want to try it out. And so those are the few reasons why youths engage in drug abuse. Not only youths, there are other categories, but I'm using youths because youths are the category that are more into this drug abuse. Thank you.
Okay, so how would you define drug abuse and what distinguishes it from casual drug use?
Okay, drug abuse, from the term abuse, it's abuse of drugs. When somebody, an individual, takes drugs excessively in a harmful way, non-medically, emphasis on non-medically. Non-medically, you are using the drug for a non-medical use. You are the essence. If the aim of using a particular drug is not to achieve a therapeutic outcome, then you are said to be abusing that drug. And it can be likened with drug addiction.
Yeah.
They are similar but slightly different. Drug abuse can happen occasionally, but drug addiction is a compulsive need for that drug, even when you don't need it for any therapeutic action, but you just see the person seeking that drug uncontrollably. So they are similar drug addiction and drug abuse are similar, but they vary in terms of frequency of usage of the drug. For drug abuse, it happens occasionally. For drug addiction, it's a compulsive need for the drugs uncontrollably, and it happens frequently. So, right, we are talking about the differences between drug abuse and the casual drug use, which we call rational drug use. Rational drug use has to do with using drugs in the right dose at the right time for a particular therapeutic condition. So these are just the primary differences between those two terminologies.
All right, sir. How do you think drug abuse impacts the mental and emotional well-being of young people?
Like I said before, people use drugs because they want to find themselves out of a particular mental situation. There are several central nervous system disorders that could prompt some people to want to use drugs. Even they don't know that they even have that central nervous system disorder, but they want to use that. They want to use drug as a means to control it temporarily. By the end of the day, it even worsens the condition. Studies have shown that uncontrollable use of some medications can trigger some central nervous system disorders. Several central nervous system disorders like psychosis, bipolar affective disorders, you've heard of bipolar cases, obsessive compulsive disorders. So these are some of the central nervous system disorders that can actually be triggered as a result of drug abuse, and it affects several organs of the body. Certain drugs that people take affect several organs of the body, and they don't know about this. They don't know about it. So it affects them directly by damaging different organs of the body, and in the long run, they come down with terminal ailments. So these are some of the direct means by which abuse of drugs can affect the people involved.
Okay, sir. In what ways do drug abuse contribute to criminal behavior or other risky activities among young people?
Drugs that people abuse. And it is important for people to know that there's a category of drugs called narcotics. These are the major class of drugs that people abuse. There are other drugs that can be abused, but going by the society we find ourselves, these are the drugs called narcotics, and these are the drugs that people commonly abuse. Now, how can it lead to criminal activities? Yes, it has social impacts. When you abuse drugs, your willingness to do some certain things occurs. People take some drugs just to give them that willingness to take risk, willingness to do things that on a normal day they wouldn't do it. But because they are under the influence of such, they can do anything without thinking about the negative consequences. So on that note, any youth that is subject to drug abuse, any youth that is involved in the act of drug abuse can, and at any time, the tendency of committing crime is very high for that youth. So that is how it directly affects their tendency to commit crimes. There are so many vices associated with drug abuse. Anybody involved in drug abuse is a potential crime committer. It's a potential lawbreaker. So that is the right word. It's a potential lawbreaker.
Okay, so it's like you're saying, as long as you are using drugs, there's every tendency
that
you will become a criminal.
A lawbreaker. It might not be a criminal. You might want to do things that ordinarily you would not find yourself doing it, but you want to be involved in it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, sir. What roles do parents and family play in preventing drug abuse among youths?
Parents and families.
Yes.
They are one of the strongest factor. If drug abuse will be curtailed, I think parents should be the champion of that. Should advocate. In fact, should be the champion of that advocacy, because it has to do with if you have a good family bond. If you have a good family bond, if you have a good bond with your parents, it if you find that people who commit crimes are people who don't have these attachments with their parents, people who don't have these close bonds with their parents. Although we still have people who have close bonds with their parents that commit crime. Studies have shown that most persons who are prone to social vices, they don't have good family bonds. And that is because if you have good family bonds, parents can come in by educating from the very young age, educating children, educating their wards on the dangers of drug abuse and the consequences. Because if you know the consequences of drug abuse at an early stage, going into it will be very difficult. Although when the peer pressure thing comes, it might be difficult, but parents play a very good role by educating their wards and children. And that is it, yeah.
What are the most effective way for communities to raise awareness about the dangers of drug abuse?
Most effective ways, media has a role to play in this. What you are doing now is one of it. If this is being televised, it's a way of creating awareness. Education is key. In community can create awareness by organizing programs centered on drug abuse and its consequences. And once community, and when you talk about the community, who are the people in the community that should do this? It starts from the family. It starts from the parents. It starts from the community leaders. If we take it as a responsibility to educate people from the grassroots, I think incidents of drug abuse will be properly managed because as it stands now, it's getting out of hand, but it's because we fail to do what is needed at the right time. Thank you.
We'll be going on a very short break. Do hang on with us, and we'll be right back.
Do you wish to make your loved ones feel special on their graduation, birthday celebration, or marriage anniversaries? Introducing Delta Echo Shoutout Special. This program is packaged to help you reach out to your family, friends, or just anyone dear to you. Hurry now to contact us via the phone number or email address showing on your screen.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us once again. We're still on the topic of drug abuse, its effects, and how to curb it. And with us is pharmacist Lawrence. Welcome once again, sir. Okay, so sir, do you believe that rehabilitation programs are effective for young people struggling with drug addiction? Why or why not?
Rehabilitation programs.
Is it effective for young people struggling with drug abuse? If it is, why? If it's not, why not?
I think, like I mentioned before, everything is centered on educating people. Now, if you're already into drug abuse, you're talking about rehabilitating those persons. You still, in the process of rehabilitation, they will still be informed, they will still be guided, they will still pass through some form of behavioral therapies that will actually help them to avoid those negative thoughts that drives them into using drugs uncontrollably. So I think it is necessary for rehabilitation programs to be inculcated in all healthcare systems as a means of managing cases of drug abuse. Yes.
Okay, so sir, you're saying even the ones that are not, maybe they're taking it like once in a while, they should also be rehabilitated.
No,
should
not
they also be rehabilitated.
Okay, no.
How do we control those ones too?
I said there's a difference between drug addiction is a form of drug abuse.
Yes. No, what of the ones
When
that
I've
are
gotten
using the drugs too? Like,
but not always.
not always, yes.
Yes, there are several ways to manage those ones. Now, the advice I usually give to people that find themselves abusing one or two things is identify the fact that you are abusing something. Identify the fact that you are addicted to something. If you identify the fact that you're addicted to something, seek help early. And knowing where to seek help is key. That is the truth. Knowing where to seek help is key. You must seek help from qualified, licensed drug experts and health practitioners, like pharmacists, doctors. You seek help. Knowing where to seek help is key. Then, if you seek help from the right source, then there are several strategies that are being used to manage such cases of drug abuse. And this has to do with one, I've mentioned behavioral therapy before. Behavioral therapy is one of them. There's something called cognitive therapy, whereby the patient is passed through a talk session. Regularly, patients will be asked to come to the health facility for a talk session. That talk session is to build the person's mentality and try to change the person's perception about the cause or what drives him or her towards that drug abuse. Then there's another approach which is called withdrawal. It is very difficult for somebody that is abusing a drug to stop. That is, in fact, it is very difficult. There's something called physical withdrawal, there's something called psychological withdrawal. In fact, physical withdrawal is not as easy. When we advise patients to, for example, a patient that is addicted to an opioid, I will not advise the person to just stop that drug abruptly. It is not done. No qualified person should even say that. Abrupt withdrawal is not advised. It's something called gradual withdrawal process. If you are taking 100 milligram or 500 milligram of tramadol 3 times a day for whatsoever aim you hope to achieve, you can be advised to reduce it to once a day. After some times, take it once a week, because there are consequences when you do abrupt withdrawal, especially for an alcohol, somebody that is addicted to alcohol. When you stop it abruptly, the tendency of the person going back is very high. So that one. So that's why we call it withdrawal approach. Then I mentioned behavioral approach. Then there's something called medication assisted approach. There are drugs that can be taken to combat that excess drug you have taken. There are drugs but before you go to that medication assisted approach, you must have started the withdrawal approach and the behavioral therapy. So medication assisted is just to combat the effects of excess use of that drug. So there are several antidotes to overdose of several drugs that people abuse. So that's the medication assisted approach. So these are the basic approach we use to manage incidents of drug abuse.
How can peer pressure be addressed in efforts to reduce drug use among youths?
Peer pressure, like I mentioned, it's one of the major causes of drug abuse. How can it be addressed?
Yes.
It's of all the causes, I think this peer pressure is one thing that is very difficult to handle, because you cannot tell where a particular child will find himself. But now it goes down to the family, because your upbringing determines the type of people, to a large extent though, the type of people you move around with.
Because I was about to stop you
Yes.
on that, because there's this particular saying that picking when one spoil will spoil.
Yes.
So I feel like there are a lot of instances
A lot of-
where parents have come out crying, they train their children well, people come out and testify that yes, they train these children well, and still these children go haywire. They take the wrong path. So I was about to counter you.
No, that's true. That's true. It's the type of people, but also you agree with me that the type of people you associate with actually it has to do with they can be related with your upbringing too. That's why I said to a large extent. But and we cannot control where okay, you cannot control okay, the person is in school, cannot control the type of people he or she moves around with. So the only way parents can play their part is that upbringing. To an extent, proper upbringing, proper education, proper awareness. It can be done from the family level. Then if that is done, then to an extent it can be reduced, but it cannot be totally reduced. The peer pressure cannot be totally controlled as it relates to causing drug abuse. Yes, that is it.
Have you had any personal or professional experiences with the impact of drug abuse on young people?
Personal, professional. Yes, I have. I've seen cases of drug abuse when I was working in the hospital. I've seen cases when I was working. I've seen cases when I was practicing in the clinical setting, and it's not actually a good sight. It's not actually a good sight, and these people. Some of the reasons why they don't come out to say it. Sometimes that's why I was talking about seeking help early enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes they feel because of the stigma, they don't want to be stigmatized. Big society tend to condemn them. When you see somebody that is always smoking, you talk down on the person. So I've seen. So what I do. So I've experienced even before I started practicing. Even as a student, I lived in a hostel here where people abuse drugs, especially alcohol and smoking. People abuse drugs. So the best you can do at some levels is just to educate them on the dangers of drug abuse. And so these are in Nigeria, they are not doing their work. As a matter of fact, we have NDLEA, the police is part of the enforcement agencies, but they are not doing their work. So if the policies made can be implemented and enforced, then I think we can get it right on the part of the government.
How can peer pressure be addressed in efforts to reduce drug use among youths?
Peer pressure, like I mentioned, it's one of the major causes of drug abuse. How can it be addressed?
Yes.
It's of all the causes. I think this peer pressure is one thing that is very difficult to handle because you cannot tell where a particular child will find himself. But now it goes down to the family because your upbringing determines the type of people, to a large extent though, the type of people you move around with.
Because I was about to stop you
Yes.
on that, because there's this particular saying that picking when one spoil will spoil.
Yes.
So I feel like there are a lot of instances
A lot of-
where parents have come out crying, they train their children well, people come out and testify that yes, they train these children well, and still these children go haywire. They take the wrong path. So I was about to counter you.
No, that's true. That's true. It's the type of people, but also you agree with me that the type of people you associate with actually it has to do with they can be related with your upbringing too. That's why I said to a large extent. But and we cannot control where, okay, you cannot control, okay, the person is in school, cannot control the type of people he or she moves around with. So the only way parents can play their part is that upbringing. To an extent, proper upbringing, proper education, proper awareness. It can be done from the family level. Then if that is done, then to an extent it can be reduced, but it cannot be totally reduced. The peer pressure cannot be totally controlled as it relates to causing drug abuse. Yes, that is it.
Have you had any personal or professional experiences with the impact of drug abuse on young people?
Personal, professional. Yes, I have. I've seen cases of drug abuse when I was working in the hospital. I've seen cases when I was working. I've seen cases when I was practicing in the clinical setting, and it's not actually a good sight. It's not actually a good sight, and these people. Some of the reasons why they don't come out to say it. Sometimes that's why, I was talking about seeking help early enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes they feel because of the stigma, they don't want to be stigmatized. Big society tend to condemn them. When you see somebody that is always smoking, you talk down on the person. So I've seen. So what I do. So I've experienced, even before I started practicing, even as a student. As a student, I lived in a hostel here where people abuse drugs, especially alcohol and smoking. People abuse drugs. So the best you can do at some levels is just to educate them on the dangers of drug abuse. And so I've had experiences, but the best you can do is to educate them. As a pharmacist, if it's the case that warrants medication-assisted therapy, you give a particular drug that can help to avert the person's craving for that particular drug.
What advice would you give to a young person who is currently struggling with drug addiction?
Advice. If anybody who is currently struggling with drug addiction, I've mentioned it before, I would advise the person to seek help early enough. Seek help early and identify the fact that you have a problem so that it can be resolved. If you want to solve a problem, you need to own up to the fact that you have a problem so that you can seek help. And you seek help from people reliable professionals who can help you, take you through the steps, because it's not an easy process. And never feel ashamed to say it out, especially to the right persons. When you are speaking out, speak out to people who can help you. People who are professionals, who they are experts in the field of drug therapy, who they are experts in the field of health and disease conditions. People who can help you, who can talk you through these stages and give you the right help. Then there's several resources online that the person can actually, the person should actually try and source for. Get those resources, get journals, magazines, source online for ways to actually reduce your cravings and manage your condition. But the most important thing is seeking help first and knowing where to seek help. Identifying your problem, identifying the fact that you have a problem so that the problem can be solved. In fact, that's the first step. Thank you.
Alright, so this leads us to our last and final question. What changes would you like to see in society to better address the issue of drug abuse among youths?
The changes, okay, that has to do with what I feel the authorities, people who are in charge of policy making, should do. Because like I have mentioned it before, if people who are in charge of policy making do the right thing in terms of enforcement and implementation, I think the issue of drug abuse will be curbed to at least 20% of it will be reduced drastically. So I think what is worth doing is worth doing well. Let the government be proactive in terms of implementation and implementation of policies on drug use, implementation of policies on drug distribution, enforcement of all those drug laws. If we get it right from that angle, it will go a long way. And secondly, the parents who are the first teachers of the children before the children goes out into the world, I think they have a very great role to play. They have a very great role to play, because if you train a child in the way of God, it will, yes,
when he's old,
exactly. So when a child is properly brought up, it will also help. It will also help. I know there are cases where someone came out from a very godly home and the person is still involved in drug abuse, but it will still go a long way. It will still go a long way. At least you find out that in those cases, maybe if a family that has 6 children, a godly home, there's no way the 6 children will be into drug abuse.
It's true.
You can have 1 or 2 deviating from the principles of the family, but so parents should actually do what they ought to do in terms of proper upbringing. Then in our schools, the people in charge there should be a drug regulatory agency in the school or in the SUG, something that I think they have it in there's a drug abuse association formed by pharmacist students. I think I'm not sure it's under the SUG. So that is a way to go actually, because what they do is they go to secondary schools, they go to primary schools, talk to them about dangers of illicit drug use. So these are the approaches that I want to see that in different settings. Different settings, we need to come up with associations, groups, where their focus is on drug abuse regulatory groups. So these are some of the changes I would like to see in order for us to have a headway in terms of drug abuse control. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Pharmacist Lawrence. We have come to the end of the show. Thank you very, very much for joining us. We do hope you join us next time. Bye.